everybody, I'm Elizabeth with our Paleo Family and Autoimmune Free Cooking Club. Welcome to my kitchen. I have a really special recipe to show you today. Usually I have the Instant Pot, usually it's nighttime, I'm cooking dinner. Today I'm making a very special paleo treat, soft pretzels. So it looks like a lot of ingredients, but a lot of that's because I have, one bag that's almost empty and another bag for some of my flours. But it's really a pretty simple recipe. You need to have your paleo pantry stocked. If you don't know how to do that, I'll have a link to a blog post that tells you what I think you need to have on hand if you're going to live this anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which in our house that means mostly paleo, dairy-free, grain-free, legume-free, refined sugar-free, that sort of thing. But we eat lots of yummy stuff like these soft pretzels I'm going to show you today. I think you're really going to love this recipe. If you have children, they're especially going to love it. If you host a Super Bowl party, a soft pretzel is a classic, and we need to know how to make it in a way that's going to keep us healthy. Okay, so it's a basic, as I started to say before the intro, a basic paleo baking recipe, or even, it's been so long since I have not baked or cooked in a paleo way, I can't even remember. But it's kind of like, paleo baking is kind of like quick bread baking. You have a bowl of your dry ingredients and a bowl of your wet ingredients, and you mix them together. We just have a couple extra steps that we need to do for soft pretzels, whether they're paleo or not. And one of them is I need to turn my oven on. Okay, so my oven is on 375, and that will be heating up while I make my dough. Now, there are a couple special tools that I think you need to have, which again, I think you need these in your kitchen anyway, but especially if you want to do baking, not even necessarily paleo baking, just regular baking. A kitchen scale, because baking is precise, and this is a stainless steel bench scraper. And this is one of my most used kitchen tools. I highly, highly recommend it. You'll see how I use it today. So for this particular recipe, we're going to weigh our dry ingredients because I really want to be precise. So this is a really simple scale. I'll link to one. I just linked it when I published the bagel recipe, which is very, very similar, to my website a couple months ago, and I found not this exact one but a very similar one. So it's just simple, inexpensive, and you may not ever use a scale, so I'm going to show you how to do that too. So generally there are a couple buttons. You want as simple as possible. Mine has on and tare, T-A-R-E, which means to zero it out basically, and then the other is unit, so we can go back and forth between grams and ounces. So I'm going to be weighing in grams today. And I put my bowl on, and I don't want to weigh my bowl, so I press the tare. Whoops, I turned it off. I press the tare button, and then it will be zeroed out, and it won't be weighing my bowl. It will only be weighing my ingredients. And the first one I need is 240 grams of almond flour. If you don't have a scale and you don't want one and you think that's silly, then it's about 2 cups. You know what, y'all? I just had 240 grams in that bag. Perfect, right? Okay, so I can just leave it right there, press that tare button, and it's zeroed out again. Because I also need 240 grams of tapioca, which is this one. So we're going to be using tapioca and cassava, and they do come from the same plant, but they're different parts and they're processed differently, so they are different flours. They bring something different to the party, and you really need to use both. So I knew I would be finishing that one up, so I have another tapioca right here. I buy a lot of these flours from Thrive Market. If you've watched any of my videos, you've probably heard me talk about Thrive. They're wonderful. It's where I get most of my paleo pantry ingredients. Sometimes they'll actually, with all this virus stuff happening, they've been out of a lot of the stuff I usually buy. And so I've had to buy some from Amazon. So I'll link some different options, but I like to buy from Thrive. I think they're a great company. I like to support them. Their prices are very good. They ship right to my door, just like Amazon does. But they also give back. So for every, it's a membership, kind of like Costco. For every membership sold, they give a membership to a family who could not otherwise afford it. And so I love that. So grams are small, very precise, okay? So I want the exact right amount. All right, so there was 240 grams of tapioca. And then I want to tear it out again. And I want 120 grams of cassava. So cassava and tapioca, in some recipes you might choose to use one over the other. You can just see a difference in the color. I don't know if my overhead camera can pick this up. But the tapioca is very white and the cassava is brown, sort of a tan color. It's not quite as finely textured. You know, sometimes I'll play around, like when I was making fried chicken and gravy. I could have used some cassava or I could have used tapioca, and either would have been fine. But in a baking recipe like this, it's going to bring some chewiness, a certain kind of body to the baked good. And so if your recipe, not just this recipe, but you know, any recipe that you happen to be reading, if it calls for one or the other, the recipe's going to come out best if you use what the recipe author recommended, because they do behave slightly differently. Come on. All right, 120. All right. And then the last thing I'm going to weigh, believe it or not, is my salt. Did I finish telling you, if you don't have a scale or you don't want a scale, the 240 grams is about 2 cups and 120 is about 1 cup. I just turned it off again. All right, I need 6 grams of, this is my fine Himalayan pink salt. This will be about a teaspoon. There we go. All right, so I'm not done with that scale, so I'm not going to put it away. And then I also need 1 pack of yeast. This is the active dry yeast, not the instant yeast. So there are my dry ingredients. All right, I'm going to whisk these together and then just set it aside while I get my liquid together, which consists of 3 large eggs and a tablespoon of honey, 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. You could use a very light olive oil. You want to use an oil that is going to be liquid at room temperature and not an inflammatory oil like canola oil, corn oil, sunflower, safflower. Those guys can bring inflammation into your body, so those wouldn't be the best choice. I like avocado. It's pretty easy to find these days, so that's what I would recommend. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and a half a cup of water. I thought I had out my measuring spoons. Am I losing my mind? Okay, so I might have just about a tablespoon of honey left in this bottle. I have more if I need to get it, but I was looking at it and I thought, ooh, I have almost a tablespoon. Just like I had exactly the right amount of almond flour, maybe I'm going to end up with exactly the right amount of honey. So there's always some that gets stuck in there. They get stuck in the lid, stuck right here in the neck of the bottle. It's not quite enough. Boo-hoo! My honey is out in the garage. My maple syrup is right here, and so they will work equally well. So I'll just do a little bit of maple syrup in there. So you might be wondering why I'm going to the trouble to make something like soft pretzels on a paleo diet. Well, it's because I want everybody in my house to be happy with the paleo diet forever, including myself. And If all I make for them is baked chicken and boiled broccoli day after day after day, bunless burgers, you know, that kind of thing, those are great meals, and we eat those meals happily. But we have been following this diet, lifestyle, for a long time now, many years, and I need to keep doing it so that I keep my autoimmune disease under control, and I don't want to cook 2 meals. So I'm trying to keep me healthy, keep everybody else healthy. It's just a great way to eat, whether you're sick or not. But most of us have some level of inflammation in our body. So cooking this anti-inflammatory way is beneficial to, I would say, everybody, most. And so we're doing it forever. And I want to be satisfied. You know, I like to eat good food. My family likes to eat good food. And like I said, I'm not making different food for different people. So every once in a while, we go to the trouble to make something like this as a treat. So everybody is super happy and nobody is complaining and asking me to buy all this junk food, you know. All right, I have my honey and my eggs. And then I need to add my oil and my apple cider vinegar. So the oil is 2 tablespoons and the vinegar is 2 tablespoons. I'm just trying to clean up as I go because I try to keep it uncluttered, and I'm going to really need my space, my counter space for making my pretzels. Alright, so I'm going to whisk this together. I could have used the same whisk, but I just got out another one. Alright, so one for my liquid, one for my dry. I'm just going to mix them together. I'm going to make a well in the center of my dry, and I'm going to pour all the liquid in, and I'll start kind of working. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing. 1/2 cup of water, just warm water. I knew I was forgetting something. Alright, let me just check. In my dry, I have almond flour, tapioca flour, cassava, salt, and yeast. And my liquid is eggs, honey, avocado oil, apple cider vinegar, and water. This egg is to make my egg wash, and this salt is for the salt. The salt, you know. All good pretzels have that yummy salt on the outside. Unless you have the kind that have like cinnamon and sugar on the outside, and that is good too. So I've just made a well in the center. Means kind of a hole, a big divot. Pour all that liquid in, and then I just start mixing it in. My hands are very clean. I'm going to have to get my hands in there. We're going to get it all mixed, and then I'm going to cover this bowl with plastic wrap and put it in the fridge to rest for 10 minutes. And while my dough is resting, I'll pull my little tabletop burner over and I'll get my water going. So something that makes pretzels or bagels unique is that you boil the dough before you bake them. And we do that because it creates a certain kind of crust, or keeps the, or in addition to, like in the case of the pretzels, it's a water with baking soda, so we've made this alkaline water, and it will keep the pretzels from getting really big. So our yeast will make the dough rise a little bit, but it's our raising agent. We don't have baking soda or baking powder in here. But it really just gives them a great flavor. So the yeast is more for flavor than it is for rising ingredient or raising ingredient, which would be proper. Any English teachers or grammar experts out there. And so you might be thinking it's strange that we put in yeast and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator. Well, that's why we're not really using the yeast to raise the dough. Okay, so at this point, I have it mostly mixed in, and it's stiff, and I did an arm workout today. So I'm having a hard time stirring that. My shoulders are sore. And this is a really nice dough to get your hand in there. It's kind of soft. It has a nice texture. So I'm going to get my hands in and really finish mixing it well. You want a nice, smooth dough. You don't want to see any clumps of flour. It's a little bit sticky, but it's not terribly sticky. A lot of paleo doughs are really wet and kind of sloppy and difficult to work with. See how nicely it's all scraped off the edges of my bowl and everything? Okay, I should have had out a piece of plastic wrap, but I don't. So let me grab that. You know what? Actually, I'm going to use a piece of parchment. I would rather use parchment. I was thinking about putting the whole bowl in the fridge. I'm actually going to wrap it. Come out of there. You know I like to not waste anything, so I'm going to scrape all that off. Just make a nice circle-ish shape. It's the cassava and the tapioca that make it a nice to handle dough like this. Yeah, and I don't have a rubber band over there. I usually do. Okay, so get a rubber band on here just to hold that parchment in place and get this in the fridge for 10 minutes. So to make my egg wash, I just cracked an egg, but I'm going to put some water in it to thin it out, a couple tablespoons. All right, so that's ready. My salt, this is a Malden flake salt, and it's kind of fancy, but you can use any salt that you like or have. So I have in this pot 10 cups of water and 2/3 of a cup of baking soda. And we'll get that baking soda to dissolve, and this will probably be about ready by the time my dough is ready. And we will divide our dough, we'll shape it, boil it, do the egg wash, sprinkle some salt on, and get those in the oven. And my oven is already up to 375. I'm going to need that. And here's my tray. And actually, I need my tapioca flour back. I'm going to use my tapioca for keeping my pretzels from sticking. So once I roll them out and shape them, I'll put them on this tray. And that'll kind of be my holding place till they boil, and then I'll put them back on there. So I might need a little bit more of that. All right, I'm going to pause. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and I'll see you back here in 7 minutes. Okay, so our dough has chilled for 10 minutes. My baking soda is just about dissolved, and I'm going to weigh my dough so that I know how, let me turn the volume off on this, how much I have and how much I want each one to weigh, so they're about the same size, which will just help them to bake evenly and will make my life easier in the end. 958 grams, and I think I'm going to make about 8. So since my bone is right here, I don't have to guess. So I want about 120 per. I'm just going to eyeball it, which you can do this too, cutting them in quarters. But I want about 120 grams in each one. So that one's 122, 115. This one's way smaller, so somebody's way bigger. Right, 120. Okay, pretty close. All right, so we're gonna make pretzel shape. So just a little bit of tapioca to keep it from sticking. These might end up being way too big. I can't remember. It's been a while since I made them. I know I made smaller ones last time. So cross over, twist around, and bring down. I got it a little too thin in that center part. You don't have to be super precious with it, but now I just messed that one up. I said you don't have to be careful, and then I ripped it to pieces. So let me just start over. So try to keep it an even thickness. And they do need to be a little bit fatter because the dough is not super like fragile, but we also don't have gluten. So I'm just using, I would have used water if I had water here, but I don't. I had my egg wash, so just a little bit of liquid to hold those little end pieces down. And just continue the same way with all of them. This is about a foot long. Make a U, loop it over, stick the ends down. You have a nice fat little pretzel, and they'll be about that shape to the end. They'll get a little bit bigger in baking, but they don't get a ton bigger. I kind of pulled that one out a little bit wider so it looks a little bit more like a pretzel. So you know there are these pretzel knots and pretzel rolls. You could absolutely make the same dough and make it all sorts of different shapes. Pull them out a little bit and make that look a little bit more like a pretzel. Okay, so this is starting to boil. Let's see. I lost my recipe. I don't know how long to boil them. Oh, you boil them until they float. I'm in the middle of canning tomatoes over here, so I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to bring this closer to me just so it's more convenient for me. If you want to be real careful to not accidentally get your fingers in the boiling water, just use your spoon to put them in. It's fine. So after they boil, they should float. If they don't float, I'll pull them out after about a minute. Put them back on the tray. I'll do the egg wash, sprinkle with salt, and then bake them. And they bake for about 15 minutes, just until they have that nice pretzel brown glow about them. So if you have kids who like to cook, this will be a great one for them to help with. Or actually, if you have kids that don't like to cook, doing something like this they might enjoy. If your kid was a kid who never liked to play with Play-Doh or figure paint, like to keep their hands really clean, they might not like something like this. But if you have a kid who always liked to get messy, who enjoyed the arts and crafts, even if they say, oh, I don't like cooking, I don't want to learn to cook, they might really enjoy this type of project. All right. Yeah, here he comes. So it just takes a short amount of time. They get cute and puffy in there. This is a shallow pan, which I did on purpose because it lets me put more in at once. So they don't have a long way to go to float to the top. That's making a lot of noise. So I mentioned early in the video when you might have soft pretzels. I mean, this isn't something that we would just have all the time. But maybe if you are following this special type of diet and you're going to go to a baseball game and it's a place where you're allowed to take your own food, make your own pretzels. That way you can participate and have the special ballpark food too and not miss out on anything. You actually get to enjoy it and still feel good at the end, which is bonus. There's something else I was going to say about this. Oh yeah, you can freeze these. So this is a lot of tapioca and cassava, which can be really difficult for some people to digest in large quantities. Most people are fine with small amounts of it. Like I can eat one of these pretzels, but then I would not want to eat another one for probably a week. They can just be very constipating. And some people, they just simply make them feel sick, like might make them feel nauseous even. But usually a little bit is fine, and you would want to avoid large quantities of it. So all that to say, unless you have a large family or you're serving these for a party, like I said, like a Super Bowl party or something, you will probably want to make them and then freeze them. And they freeze beautifully. Just bake them, get them completely done, freeze them, and then you can defrost them when you're ready to have another pretzel. Pop it in the oven. I'm a big fan of reheating things in the oven, not a microwave, or you could do a toaster oven. If you leave them in too long, they will start to fall apart, so really about a minute, 2 minutes max. So I do not have a pastry brush. I don't know what happened to my pastry brush. So I need to use a spoon or my favorite kitchen tool, my fingers, to put on my egg wash. I have done it with a spoon and it's perfectly fine. I just usually end up getting a little too much on when I do it that way. And you want to really water your egg down like I did, or you'll end up with, it'll kind of be, I don't know, like you've got scrambled eggs on top of your pretzel. You don't want that. Just kind of rinse some of those bubbles off. We're done. So turn that off. Finish egg washing. I think I just heard thunder. It's supposed to thunder this afternoon. We're supposed to have thunderstorms today. We were not supposed to have thunderstorms yesterday. We had major thunderstorms all afternoon and evening into the night. I went to bed. It was thundering like crazy. All right, so a good little egg wash on there. And then I'm going to sprinkle with my salt and get these guys in the oven. Again, I'm using this Malden Flake sea salt. I just bought this from Amazon years ago, probably 5 years ago. And I only use it for kind of special things like this. Like if I'm making sea salt caramel thumbprint cookies or something like that. This is the salt that I would sprinkle on the top because you can see it. It has a nice flavor. It'll stay big and chunky like this. Alrighty. 8 Paleo Soft Pretzels. In the oven they go. Okay, it's pretzel time. They smell so good. So remember I told you the yeast was in there mostly for flavor. They did rise a little bit. But can you say yum? Yum. So I told you 15 minutes. I ended up keeping them in for 18 because I just really wanted them nice, deep, dark brown. I'm going to slip them off of this tray and onto this cooling rack because I have people who keep coming into my kitchen and asking if they can have a pretzel because they are smelling them. So I'm going to put them on this rack so they will start to cool. You can find this recipe at my website, which is autoimmunefreecookingclub.com. It's for free. You can just go there and find it and print it out, or pull it up on your computer, your phone, whatever, and make this recipe. I also will link to my blog post about setting up your paleo pantry so that, you know, you can have these things on hand when the craving for a soft pretzel strikes and you just need to have one. You'll have what you need on hand, or at least have a resource. Ooh, this is where I can go to get that cassava flour quickly. Remember that these will freeze beautifully. Just cool them completely. Anything that's individual that I'm freezing, I like to put on a tray in the freezer, let them freeze separately, just to make sure they're not going to get stuck together. And then once they're totally frozen, put them in whatever freezer type contraption you use. These actually are puffy enough that you could slice them and use them for sandwich if you wanted to do that. But, you know, what is a pretzel good for? We grab our trusty yellow mustard. Give it a good shake, right? Nobody wants that watery mustard stuff. This bowl is too big. I'm all for making a pretty picture, but I am not for wasting, just for a picture, okay? So I just love old-fashioned yellow mustard. Which one do I want to rip open? Can you see how it has that chewy? Oh, yum. And you dip it in the mustard. And I'm actually not, I can't taste it because I'm fasting. I do intermittent fasting. And I always taste my dinner because I'm eating by dinner time, but I'm not eating in the afternoon. So, Luke and Kate, I'm going to need one of my taste testers to taste test this for me. But you saw that amazing texture. It smells like a great soft pretzel. Okay, I bribed my taste testers, so here they are. So here is my big taste tester. And here's my slightly, do you want mustard? Mm-hmm. It's hot.
It's okay.
It's good.
Does it taste like a soft pretzel?
Mm-hmm. Good job.
That's really good.
Good. Do you need two or just one to share?
Definitely too.
Yeah.
Which other one do you want? Okay, then I gotta photograph the others. All right, put it on this plate. Up you go. All right, say goodbye. Say hi and goodbye.
Hi and goodbye.
Thank you. All right, everybody, here you have Paleo Soft Pretzels. These aren't just gluten-free. Gluten-free will be full of a bunch of grains that are inflammatory to most of us. So if you go paleo, then you get rid of all the grains. And we use some special flours, the cassava, the tapioca, the almond flour. Yes, you really need to use all three to get the best result. But just have them in your pantry, have them on hand, and then you're able to make something special like this that will make your growing teenagers super happy, that will make yourself super happy, and your guests super happy. Nobody is going to even have any idea that you have made paleo pretzels if they come to your house for a party. They're going to say, these are the best pretzels I've ever had. Where did you get these? And you're going to say, I made them. You're going to say, you made them? Can I have the recipe? And you'll say, sure. And you'll give them the recipe. And they'll say, what is this weird stuff? And then you'll have company all the time because they'll just want to keep coming back to your house to hang out with you and eat your yummy pretzels. So make these Paleo Soft Pretzels. You will love them. Everybody you love will love them. And you'll be super proud of yourself. All right, everybody, that's it for today. I will see you back here in the kitchen next time.